Hi. Over 2,300 years ago, the Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote this book, Ethics. 2,300 years ago, people were starting to talk about what is right, what kind of behaviours are right. Aristotle was really taking the next steps from his teacher, Plato, in looking at defining what is good. Now, you might ask, why is it that a guy that specialises in human resource management would start bringing up ethics 2,300 years ago after the discussion was really begun? Well, the reason is that as we come out of this particular crisis, this coronavirus crisis, we're going to come out into a recession, and it's going to be a serious recession. And when we go into that kind of situation, the employer tends to have the upper hand. Employers can be quite ruthless, and we've seen some of the larger employers of late talking about large-scale redundancies, reducing pay of staff enormously in order for them to cope and get through this crisis in their eyes as best as they can, with their eyes, of course, on the bottom line. But we're also seeing that we're still in the Brexit negotiations. And as we come out of those Brexit negotiations, so far at a virtual impasse, we're going to be looking at the government introducing what they call initiatives to reduce things like red tape so that businesses can begin to take off. So as we come out of the crisis of the coronavirus, we will be going into a crisis of a recession. We will be approaching the end of this year when we will be leaving the European Union. Now, I want to make clear that I am not making comments on my position on whether we should be in or out of Europe are irrelevant. I'm talking about how we are going to be coping as employers with the emergent situations. Recession, followed by us leaving the European Union. In both cases, the present government has been talking about deregulating all sorts of things in order that we can come out of this crisis and into an economy where the employer can take measures and cut the red tape, as they call it. Cutting red tape, to me, is a euphemism for deregulation. Now, one of the important things for me about these videos and my book, Human Resource Management Made Easy, is that it's about ethics. It's about those ethics that began to be talked about 2,300 years ago in ancient Greece. It's about us being able to ethically progress, because we are a human race. We do not define ourselves on how ruthless we can be, although sometimes that tends to be the characteristic that seems to assert itself over others. But as we do that, if we were to allow that to happen in our businesses, then for me, we are lost. I don't want us to be looking at how we can take advantage of deregulation. I want us to start looking at how we can take advantage of ethical management, of values-led management, of values-led businesses that get through this crisis and the next crisis and the exit from the European Union in such a way that we can honourably hold our heads up as a nation, as businesses within that nation, as people within those businesses within that nation, that we can stand up straight, hold our heads high and say that we did the right thing. We didn't do the thing that allowed us to take advantage of other people's misery. We didn't do the thing that allowed us to ride roughshod over people's rights or wait eagerly for those rights to be taken away by a government that is in power at the moment. If people start to deregulate, that doesn't mean that we have to de-standard. It doesn't mean that we have to go low in order to survive. Now, I say this because there are lessons from history, from fairly recent history. In the 1980s, we moved very much towards a self-serving society in a big way. That was the politics and the philosophy of the then government. Moving to number one. I'm number one and I'm looking after number one. And what did we see happen from that? We saw major banks like Barclays supporting things like the apartheid regime in South Africa. Now that brought massive action against it in terms of people saying, no, this is not right. This is unethical. We're not going to bank with you. Large councils stopped banking with them. Then we look at more recent issues. We look at major banks. Again, Barclays being one of them, and I'm not saying anything that hasn't been dealt with in the courts. They fixed the LIBOR rate. They were fixing the LIBOR rate and they were fined in billions. The banks around the world that were involved in that fixing of the rates for the short-term profit for some individuals, that was wrong. That was unethical. And it brought some bad news to their business. We saw Philip Green take over British home stores, and then we saw him plunder British home stores, and we saw many people lose their jobs. Now, we don't want to be that, do we? I will say right now that rather than work for someone as a consultant or an advisor or anything that wants to take advantage of this situation that's about to emerge, the deregulation, then I would rather go hungry than do that. For people that want to manage ethically, run their businesses ethically, practice human resource management that is ethical and value driven, then those are the people that I want to work with. Now, in the second chapter of my book, Human Resource Management Made Easy, I address how an organisation, how a company can position itself to attract the people that would thrive in that kind of environment. And through the book, I talk about motivation, I talk about engagement, involvement, talk about all sorts of things where the management, where companies can harness the talents of their workers and attract and retain the best people, because the people that want to work for an ethical company will be the better people. The people that want to work for a ruthless organisation or company that tramples on its workers are not the kind of people that I want to work with. So believe me, if you are watching this video, if you tune into anything that I say, then you will know that I will not be compromised on my ethics. And I want to see that companies come out of this recession that we're about to go deeply into, that they come out of that they manage their way through this by being ethical. And that way, they will have motivated employees. They will have people that will be able to survive and thrive in a situation that is going to be very, very difficult for us all. So, I just want to say, stay ethical. Keep your head high. Keep your values intact. And we will thrive as we come through this. If you allow yourself to be dragged into the situation and say, we can't afford ethics now, we can't afford this now. Remember, for 2,500 years almost, we've had ethics on the agenda. If we can't afford to talk about it now, if we can't afford to incorporate ethics into our management, into our working cultures, when can we? When can we do that? When can we be ethical and thrive? Or do we want to go down that slippery slope to authoritarian management, exploiting its workers, paying as little as they can, avoiding the red tape that the government has helped us all cut at the expense of the people that work for us and with us? It wouldn't be a happy future. Let's look forward to something. Let's have some optimism about how we can do things better and not take advantage of bad times for our own benefit. Thank you for watching, and please press subscribe on the YouTube channel, and then you'll get these videos as soon as they're posted. Press like and share on the Human Resource Management pages on Facebook, and if you get the opportunity, please purchase a book, and hopefully that will become embedded in your organisational workplace culture. Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.